Hey, this video is a bit long, so allow yourself some time to listen and integrate the message, okay? I often hear people say therapy is expensive. And yes, it can be, but helping people is expensive. And so that you can understand what I mean by that, I'm going to share some of my story and how I gotten into the mental health field. In high school. Yep, it always started in high school, right? I remember hearing this soft voice that said, go into psychology. And I said, no, nah. I didn't like reading or writing, and the investment felt daunting. Daunting because I was a teen mom of 2. What I did know was that I loved dance. I was in a math science magnet program. And I was a person who asked lots of questions about just about everything. I wanted to know and understand how things work. Not just telling me to do something, but how do you do it and execute it well? Well, turns out I also was trying to understand people and also myself. I had no idea that all those parts of me were preparing me for the work as a somatic psychotherapist. Over time, I realized I wasn't simply choosing this work. I was answering a call. So why does my story matter? Because helping people is sacred work. And sacred work asks something of us. It asks for time. It asks for courage. It asks for sacrifice. It asks us to become. And sometimes it asks us to believe that we belong in the very work that is calling us. For me, that journey looked like years of education, graduate school, internship, supervision, licensing exam, continuing education, consultation, personal healing, and thousands of hours learning how to ethically sit with another person's pain, grief, trauma, and transformation. And that kind of journey requires sacrifice. Sacrifice of time, financial risk, lost income while training, and personal investment. And perhaps this is one of the reasons there continues to be a shortage of Black therapists, right? Something to think about. The path to becoming a therapist is long, costly, and often requires resources, support, and access that many people simply do not have. So yes, therapy can be expensive, right? And becoming someone who can provide therapy can be expensive too. But the cost of therapy is not only about paying for services. So let's get into that piece, right? It's also about what it takes to cultivate enough people and enough spaces capable of holding human beings well. But therapists are not the only people doing the work of holding human beings, right? I'm sure that's what you're saying. Yep, the churches are doing it. Mosques are doing it. Temples are doing it. Our elders do it. Community circles do it. Friends and families do it. Our sister circles are doing it, right? We need all of these spaces. We need therapists. We need spiritual communities. We need villages. We need places where people can be witnessed, challenged, supported, and loved. There is an African philosophy called Ubuntu that says, I am because we are. And there is a Gullah saying, one hand cannot tie a bundle. Neither healing nor development happens alone. And this is the constant thread that I'm continuing to say throughout all of my videos, right? Neither healing nor development happens alone. In my work, I talk about the Spiral Rhythm Organization, SRO. I'm working on a new name, y'all. Again, give me some suggestions. One of the foundational principles that I'm speaking about is rhythm organizes participation, right? And participation organizes development. The people we spend time with matters. The communities we belong to matters. The spaces that hold us matters. So it brings me to, with me saying that, it brings me to this popular quote that I heard the other day that says, you are the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. I don't know if we literally are the average of the 5 people we're around, but I do know this. The people we participate with shape our rhythms. They influence what feels possible. They influence how we see ourselves. They influence how we regulate, love, trust, and heal. And we influence them too. It's a two-way street, right? No one person, no one therapist, no one church, no one mosque, no one temple, no one community can do it alone. We need each other. And I keep saying that as well. We need each other. Because in the end, I am because we are. One hand cannot tie a bundle. Perhaps that is why healing has always been and will always be a collective act. We need spaces where people can be witnessed, challenged, supported, and loved. Because helping people is expensive. Because holding human beings is sacred work. And perhaps the question isn't only, why is therapy so expensive? Maybe the question is, what does it cost us when there are fewer therapists, fewer elders, fewer community spaces, and fewer places where people can behold one another well? Think about that. I hope I didn't chop that last piece up, but fewer communities where people can hold each other well. I look to hear your comments. See you around. Oh, today's the birthday. Today's my birthday. Take care.